Hey everyone! So today I'm going to show you my process for a CHIEFS painting that I'm doing for my dad on commission that is a lot like one I did about a year and a half ago. This is the one I did a year and a half ago. I did it when I was still very much a beginner. This one though, it's going to be done the same way like with the stenciled letters, which is a stencil that I freehand drew and made myself. And it's going to be the same idea. However, the result of this one is 100 times better than the other one. And I was really proud of the first one also, but not nearly as proud as I was whenever I was done with this one. But all my colors that I'm using are listed below in the description box. And I'm basically just kind of dirty pouring all the colors onto the canvas because I don't want the lines of paint to be all uniform and perfect, and I want the design to be very kind of not chaotic, but chaotic in a way and all over the place. I would also like to explain the strategy I use when it came to not just the colors of paint I use, but the brands of paint that I picked. Because CHIEFS colors are red and yellow, and obviously red and yellow mixed together makes orange, and obviously I didn't want orange. It was really important to prevent too much orange from happening. Obviously, I knew the colors were going to mix a little bit, but I didn't want them to mix too much. And in order to prevent that, it was really, really important that both my reds and my yellows were fully opaque. And so that's why the only way to find a fully opaque yellow color is to use a heavy body paint. And so what I ended up going with, well, except for there is one exception to that I've seen. There could be more, but I've only seen one. That wasn't heavy body, that was fully opaque, and that's Artist Loft Metallic Yellow. It says that one's opaque, and then so I used that, and then I also used Liquitex Heavy-Body Cadmium Yellow Medium. And then the reds that I used were Liquitex Basics Cadmium Red DPU and Pyrrole Red. And then on top of that, I also used some gold in this, and then of course the white and the black. Also, I feel like I'm a little late mentioning this, but the canvas I'm using is a 12 by 24 inch gallery wrapped canvas. Now I'm going to go ahead and explain some things that you won't see in the video because after I got the background design to where I technically liked it, I impulsively decided that I wanted to use a palette knife to swipe some cell activator, through parts of it here and there, just to add even more interest to the design. And so I did that, and I didn't take a video close-up of it, but I will show you some pictures of how that looked after that step. And then what I did after that, and after like all the paint had fully cured, or actually I did it while the paint was fully curing, I made my own stencil for the CHIEFS lettering. And how I did that was I had a big dry erase board, and so I took frock tape, like painter's tape, overlapped strips of the frock tape on the dry erase board, just because the dry erase board, it would peel off of easily, and slightly overlapping each strip. And then I drew these are the close-ups of after I swiped it with a palette knife and some cell activator. But you'll see in a second, that's what I meant by overlapping strips of tape. And then I drew out the stencil on top of it, and then I used a utility knife to cut out the letters. And so in this next step, I am putting the letters on the dried background. I call it background, but it's not technically acting as a background. It's more of a peekaboo design, but I don't know what you would technically call it, but it's not exactly a background. But no need to get all technical, I suppose. All right, so now in order to make sure the edges of the painter's tape are sealed and that none of the black paint that I'm going to be using outside of the painter's tape seeps underneath it, I'm going to use a brush to apply some matte varnish, or sorry, some matte medium around all edges of the painter's tape, and that will activate the paint block technology that is in the painter's tape that they use in making it, specifically this frog tape, and it will create a good seal essentially. This did need to fully dry before I could move on to the next step, and so I didn't want to wait forever for it to dry either, and so all I did to speed it up was use a blow dryer on it, and I had it dry within less than 5 minutes. Now I am using a flat brush starting with my edges, to brush the black paint on the rest of the painting besides where the stencil is. And it's this black paint that I'm using, it does have a naturally glossy finish, and so that's why when you see the end result, which is unvarnished, the black still looks glossy. I also mixed in an additive into the black paint that I feel like it's important to elaborate on. The product that I used was by Golden, and it's called Retarder. It's sometimes also referred to as slow dry medium, but they're both the same thing. You just mix a little bit of it into your acrylic paint, and it really comes in handy in a big way whenever doing brushwork, because it slows down the evaporation of the water that is in acrylic paint, which extends your work time that you have to work with the acrylic paint, and so it will make it dry slower and allow you to work with it longer than if you were just using the acrylic paint by itself, because it would start to clump up on itself, and if you're still trying to manipulate it while it's trying to dry, you're going to run into issues, as I have before in the past. Now I'm using a skewer to carve my artist's initials into that thick layer of black paint down in the bottom corner of the painting. And my artist initials look the same as they do in my logo at the beginning and end of the video. And after this, we get to do the big reveal and peel off the letters, which is my most favorite part, of course. It's really important to take the painter's tape off while the black is still wet. Otherwise, it's going to also peel off some of that black paint and you won't get as clean and crisp of an edge around the letters in this case. And it's hard to tell that I'm even holding anything, but I am using a pair of tweezers to help grab onto and lift up the edges and corners of that painter's tape. Because the black paint is still wet, if I had just used my fingers to grab a hold of and, you know, lift up that painter's tape, then that would have smudged a lot of the black into the letters where there's not supposed to be any black. And I really wanted my, you know, all the lines to be and the letters to be as crisp and as clean as possible. And that wouldn't have been possible if I had not used the tweezers. So they were a very, very, very helpful and useful tool in this. Now, because I should have painted the black going from left to right, but I started kind of at like the bottom right side and kind of went down and up and around. And so the paint had started to kind of dry like over here on like the right side, which is why whenever I was peeling off the tape, say for the F for example, it also peeled off some of the black that was right there. But I'm just taking my flat brush to fix it, and it was able to be fixed very, very, very easily. I'm almost finished peeling off the letters, and I cannot wait for you guys to see the unvarnished close-up of this because it is so cool. I am so happy with this one, and my dad's already seen it and he thought it was absolutely beautiful, and I'm just ecstatic by this one. And if you're a Chiefs fan, hopefully hopefully you like it too. But this can be done, this technique can be done for any team. But here's the close-up.